Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hub Cycling 2023 Annual General Meeting. My name is Jeff Leigh. I'm the president of Hub Cycling, and I'll be your host for this evening. We're planning on having everything wrapped up tonight by 8:30 p.m., but there's lots to go over before then, including organization updates, cycling wins, and of course, the election results. We are broadcasting from the Hub Cycling office at 312 Main in Vancouver in a couple of different rooms, along with members of our board of directors, Victoria Gray and Genevieve Bowers. The staff on site with me are Navdeep China, Kathy Acuna, and Jennifer Ray. Hub Cycling acknowledges that this meeting, taking place in our case in the city of Vancouver, is on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. We'll be doing a number of electronic procedural motions tonight. Please vote on these only if you are a verified Hub member. If staff feel anyone is being inappropriate, we will let that individual know, and they may remove that person from the meeting. We will post a recording of this meeting online at a later date. Please do not record this meeting or take photographs. This evening, you will have a chance to hear from a number of different directors, staff members, and local committee volunteers. Please put your questions in the chat, as staff and board are standing by to answer them. If we don't have an immediate answer to your questions, we will be in touch after the meeting via email. For the fourth year in a row, we are hosting a mainly virtual annual general meeting. We found over the past few years that this increases our attendance and broadens the geographic range of our attendees. Thank you to all the members who took the time to vote for the board of directors this year. This year, we also have a live viewing party happening at the Creekside Community Centre, hosted by our Vancouver UBC local committee. Welcome to everyone who is joining us from there. We hope you're having a good time. I'm sorry I couldn't be there with you. Just to give you a quick summary of how the evening will go, we will first hear from our guest speakers, Dr. Alexandra Choi and Megan Oakey, followed by a short Q&A that they have generously agreed to do with us. Then we will have a quick stretch break, which will be followed by updates from Hub Cycling's executive director, our regional advisory committee reps, and our local committees. Our board treasurer will give the final update on Hub Cycling's financials before we announce the election results. We move now to the motions, and a reminder that you may only vote on these if you're a current Hub member. Kathy will have messaged you privately during registration if you are not entitled to vote. If you are not a member, please just observe. This year, we will run through all four motions on your screen so we have them all up at once after I've called for their approval and after another board director has seconded them. You will then have 45 seconds to select your choices. For simplicity, we'll have board member Victoria Gray second each of the motions after I read them. There are no special motions put forth this year, so we will be hearing all the standard motions we have every year. First, to the agenda. A motion to approve our agenda. I move that we approve the 2023 Hub Cycling Annual General Meeting agenda. Victoria has seconded that motion. The minutes of our last annual general meeting. A motion to approve the 2022 minutes. I move that we approve the 2022 Hub Cycling Annual General Meeting minutes as distributed. Victoria has seconded that motion. For elections officer, this year Nadia Forik, who is a retiring board member and not standing for re-election, has agreed to take on this role. She has the results and will announce them later in the meeting. A motion to approve Nadia as elections officer. I move that we approve Nadia Forik as elections officer. Victoria has seconded that motion. Fourth, a motion to approve Manning Elliott as our independent external financial reviewers. Matthew Alexander, a board member and treasurer, will be giving an update on our financial statement later in the meeting. I move that we approve Manning Elliott as our independent external financial reviewers. Victoria has seconded that motion. We will now launch the polls for your votes. that the record show that the motions have been approved by the membership. Thank you very much, everybody. Being a board member is a volunteer position and requires a significant amount of dedication and time. So I want to acknowledge all the other current and outgoing board members here, many of whom you may have met in the past. This year, our outgoing board members are Matthew Alexander, Carlos Alonso, Genevieve Bowers, Nadia Forik, Ty Sylvie, and Ozge Yazar. I also want to acknowledge our continuing board members. If you're on the line today and if you can turn on your video and wave when you hear your name, please do so. Some of these folks you'll be hearing from later. Sarah Eustace, Alicia Gowan, and Victoria Gray. I also want to thank Erin O'Melinn, Hub's Executive Director, and all of the other Hub staff for the job they've done this past year. And a special thank you to the team here helping put on the AGM. They make my job much easier. Welcome back, everyone. Let's get right back into it and hear from Hub's Executive Director, Erin O'Melinn, on some of the highlights from the past year at Hub Cycling. Our board members, Alicia Gowan and Victoria Gray, who have co-chaired our Regional Advisor Committee, will follow Erin with an update on infrastructure and advocacy wins of the Regional Advisor Committee throughout our region. Right after that, we'll hear from Hub Community Organizer Jonathan Mack and select local committee chairs and volunteers on all the work they've been doing across Metro Vancouver this last year. And finally, before we announce the election results, we'll get the usual financial update from Matt Alexander, who's our treasurer. The election results will then follow. All our presenters are on the line to answer questions should any arise. Please post any questions you have in the chat. For the Vancouver viewing party, please pass them on to the host there and they will put them in the chat for you. We'll ask speakers to answer them after the final financial presentation. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks again to Dr. Alexandra Chow and Megan Oki for that excellent presentation, as well as the Q&A session. We look forward to continued collaborations. Partnering with the health sector is so important to reach the full potential of cycling and all its community and individual benefits. Wonderful to see you all at our 2023 AGM, our 25th anniversary AGM. It has been a pleasure to lead the organization for about half of that time and work with so many of you to accomplish improved community wellness and connection. I'm going to tell you about a sampling of things we've been up to in the past year. In 2022, we made more important progress with our advocacy work. Our decades-long push for better legal protections for vulnerable road users has seen successes with the start of reform to the BC Motor Vehicle Act. A safe passing distance law and other definitions have been passed in the legislature, and we're working with government to develop regulations and education for them to come into effect this spring. We're in active conversations with ICBC on how to improve their treatment of people that cycle and are involved in collisions. We've seen some small improvements already and will continue to push for equitable support. Our longtime request for BC Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure funding to fix their own cycling gaps was finally honored, and $100 million is now available to connect communities, including potential cycle highways. Hub staff and board members have been working hard advancing the case for cycle highways in Metro Vancouver as a way to ungap the map and make cycling safer and more accessible for more people. We developed a cycle highway working group with staff, board, community stakeholders, representatives from TransLink and BEST, and reached out to the disability community for their input. Hub has received endorsements for cycle highways from many organizations, including car sharing and boards of trade, presented to many municipal and regional government staff, the tourism group Destination Vancouver, the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, and more. Hub also updated our Adopt a Gap map, where you can make a donation and tell a story to indicate your support to fill a cycling network gap. Those were some region or province-wide pushes, but we can't overlook Hub cycling local committees that are full of residents who regularly ride in their communities and are a valuable resource. They have a huge impact on improving cycling conditions. All are welcome to join their monthly volunteer meetings. Over the past year, committees held 12 community and assessment rides and wrote 61 advocacy letters to decision makers, which we know make a difference in what happens on the ground. Thank you to all the volunteers that share their local expertise, making cycling conditions better in their areas. If you've never been to a meeting, I highly recommend checking one out in your community. It's one of the most impactful ways you can influence cycling conditions. Hub Cycling released a cycle network equity report this year, showing that the best quality cycling facilities were not evenly distributed across the region. The least advantaged areas in Metro Vancouver, considering factors such as income and access to transportation options, have less access to cycling facilities that are comfortable for most people. This shows a clear inequity that should be addressed through building better bike infrastructure quickly in underserved areas, improving transit, secure bike parking, and other connections, considering access to employment opportunities in particular. Engaging and empowering vulnerable populations, including racialized communities, Indigenous peoples, low-income individuals, and women, to better understand their specific transportation needs and address the barriers they face. And then monitor and evaluate those equity outcomes. Hub's research program developed 2 more municipal cycling maps, which are based on Hub's State of Cycling GIS dataset, which provides improved information, including comfort levels, hills, and cycling amenities. The Cycling Equity in Older Buildings research report was released. The impacts of the design and policies of older buildings on cycling accessibility is becoming increasingly important. In partnership with UBC and diverse private and public sector organizations, the report identified challenges and recommendations to improve secure bike parking and building access for people with bicycles. A findings webinar was co-hosted by TransLink and well attended by policymakers and influencers. Cycling improvements are not just about the roads, but where people can leave their bikes safely at their destinations and be ready to transition to their next activity. Bike-friendly building assessments and certifications help organizations understand the quality of their current cycling end-of-trip facilities, like parking, lockers, change rooms, and then Hub makes recommendations for improvement or for original build. Last year, Hub completed reports for a number of hospitals, government, and corporate buildings, including major new developments. One of the benefits of getting a bike-friendly business assessment is eligibility to receive a bike award. These coveted prizes celebrate the organizations and individuals that have made cycling more comfortable and safer for people of all ages and abilities across Metro Vancouver. It also showcases personal stories and highlights community successes. The events attended by government officials, staff, corporate and community leaders, and individuals who care about cycling. Almost 500 people registered to attend the ceremony this year. 12 elected officials from across the region presented awards, including the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, the Minister of State for Trade, and the Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, showing they have a clear stake in seeing cycling succeed. Enabling and promoting cycling through events is an important part of getting more people cycling more often. Bike to Shop showcases the convenience and joy of cycling, including the economic benefits to businesses. In 2022, over 1,500 people stopped by businesses. 65 businesses took part across 11 neighborhoods in 7 municipalities. Over both Go by Bike Week events in 2022, we had over 9,000 participants, many of whom were trying cycling for transportation for the first time. The majority of those people continue to cycle after the event, which shows we're building lasting habits. Since its inception in 2016, Bike to School Week has witnessed impressive growth, engaging nearly 700 schools and empowering over 54,000 students. The year 2022 marked a significant milestone for us as we reached new heights with a record-breaking participation of 137 schools. 46 participated for the first time. Together with the government of BC, TransLink, and local municipalities, we're on our way to realizing our goal of reaching all BC school children with cycling education so they feel confident riding for transportation. This is raising a new generation of more active, respectful, and sustainable road users. Key highlights from Hub school courses in 2022 in Metro Vancouver are 15,550 youth received on-bike programming. That's 75% of our target students. In 152 schools, and 18 municipalities. Outside of Metro Vancouver, we were able to provide education with local partners to the Sunshine Coast, Squamish, South Okanagan, Southern Vancouver Island, the West Kootenays, and Kelowna areas. Over 9,000 youth received on-bike programming and 94 courses were taught. That means across the whole province, we're reaching about 25,000 elementary school students with cycling education, and that's expected to grow this year and beyond. Hub's adult and family-oriented training is expanding as well, with permanent cycling centers that provide loaner bikes, helmets, and gear, removing barriers for transporting those things to course locations. So most courses sold out. Over 100 racialized and Indigenous youth participated in Ride Your Path 8-week program during the spring and summer of 2022 in partnership with Red Fox Healthy Living Society and the Katzie First Nation. Youth aged 9 to 12 years, along with older teenage mentors, receive cycle safety training, along with a bike, helmet, lock, and lights to keep after the program. In neighborhoods across the region, these youth also took guided rides to self-identified local destinations to increase their comfort and skills in traveling around their community. To complement our in-person courses, Streetwise Cycling Online provided instantly accessible theory and background information to feel more ready to ride on the road. Over 750 people enrolled in the course, a 300% increase from 2021. In 2022, Hub Cycling partnered with the Immigrant Services Society of BC, matched 71 newcomers with 56 volunteer bike mentors. Mentors shared their experience in urban cycling with recently arrived immigrants and refugees about getting around by bike in our region. Newcomers received the safe cycling training, and each was given a bike along with a helmet and a lock. If you think our recent activities were pretty great, make sure you and all the bike lovers you know are current members. Invest $10 to support cycling for a lifetime and invite your friends and families to join too. Monthly or annual charitable donations are also very welcome to keep this momentum so that cycling can help to solve many of the most pressing challenges of our time. Thank you again to all our volunteers, board members, staff, and supporters. You're making our communities healthier, happier, and more connected.
Hi, I'm Victoria Gray, one of the co-chairs of the Regional Advisory Committee.
And I'm Alicia Gowan, the other co-chair of the Regional Advisory Committee.
The Regional Advisory Committee, or RAC, is the Hub Cycling Board Committee that focuses on advocacy, infrastructure, and policy throughout Metro Vancouver. We have two main objectives. The first is to advocate for active transportation infrastructure on key projects throughout the region, especially those with regional significance. We work with all 10 of Hub's local committees to support this objective by approving advocacy letters, providing advice on advocacy actions, and other support as needed. The second RAC objective is to draft policy recommendations for Hub, which are then approved by Hub's Board of Directors.
This past year, the RAC committee consisted of Board of Directors Carlos, Sarah, Jeff, Victoria, and myself, as well as staff member Navdeep and special appearances from staff Jonathan and Evan. Over the following minutes, we will provide you with a summary of our work, including major successes this past year. The committee created a 2023-2024 action plan that includes specific priorities and goals that are aligned with Hub's overarching organizational strategic goals. We actively refer to this action plan in our monthly meetings to ensure we're on track and focusing our time and efforts on activities that will help meet Hub's objectives.
RAC and staff worked closely on prioritizing Hub's recommendations to the provincial government for the Modernized Motor Vehicle Act, knowing that not everything we asked for would be addressed immediately. We were, however, happy to see around 5 of our 32 recommendations adopted in the updated Act, including safe passing distances and new definitions of vulnerable road users. This is an important first step in protecting road users who need it the most, and we will continue to advocate for our remaining recommendations.
In terms of local committees, throughout the year, RAC has reviewed, provided input, and approved countless advocacy letters from the 10 local committees of Hub. Local committees are formed and run by volunteers, so RAC works with staff to support the local committees as needed to ensure that they have access to resources they might need to advance their advocacy work.
RAC champions advocacy work itself when infrastructure is of regional significance and/or crosses local committees' boundaries. For example, we engaged with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure on their plans for Highway 7 widening through Maple Ridge in support of the Maple Ridge Pitt Meadows Local Committee. The improvement includes road upgrades as well as active transportation improvements that would effectively complete the cycling gap along Highway 7. We are also engaged in advocating for active transportation improvements as part of the Highway 1 widening project, extending east to Langley and then on to Abbotsford. Another regional project RAC has been involved with is the Fraser River Tunnel Project. This is part of the Highway 99 tunnel program, which also includes improvements to the Bridgeport Road connections, the Steveston Highway interchange, and the Highway 17A interchange. We attended stakeholder meetings and provided input to advocate for safe, separated, active transportation lanes as a key part of this project, both through the tunnel and on connecting routes to either side of the tunnel.
RAC has, in partnership with staff, met with many provincial officials, including those from the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy, the Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. We're vocal and diligent in presenting data-backed cases for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, increased safety, as well as healthier, thriving communities. We've also advocated for cycle highways and cycle tourism within BC and provided feedback on the provincial government's Clean Transportation Action Plan.
At RAC, we continue to lead the work on the state of cycling, including updates to the priority gap lists and consolidating state of cycling assessed routes with identified priority gaps and other spatial data, including #UngapTheMap. RAC has also provided training for local committees on the use of the gap map and how to update it.
We've drafted policy recommendations for Hub, such as the micromobility position paper, which included an organizational definition and position on micromobility. Beyond this, we've provided feedback to staff on reports such as the multi-use pathway paper, the Paddling Towards Equity paper, the First Nations Engagement Guide, as well as recommendations to the province, such as the recommendation paper to meet Clean BC 2030 emissions reductions targets.
As you can see, RAC has lots on the go, and there are many opportunities to influence decision makers and improve cycling for all. If you have any questions related to these topics or anything else related to RAC, you can reach us at hub.rac@bikehub.ca. Thanks from all of us at RAC.
Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan, and I've been the community organizer at Hub for the past 2 years. My roles revolves around close collaboration with our 10 local committees that span the region, with my primary focus being bolstering their advocacy endeavors, facilitating coordination among committees, and overseeing some of the broader advocacy initiatives at Hub, particularly the ones that interface with the local committees. For those unfamiliar with our committees, let me provide some insight. We have 10 local committees across Metro Vancouver who lead the advocacy work in their areas. As experts in the cycling conditions and needs of their cities, we believe that it's important for the advocacy work to be led by people who are familiar with and cycle in those communities. Our committees are made up of incredible and passionate volunteers who work with their local governments and other stakeholders to make cycling better and safer in their cities. Some of our local committees have provided video updates on the work that they've done over the past year. Following these videos, I'll provide some updates from the remainder of the committees.
Hi, this is Blake, Jasper, Julian, Sebastian, and Wendy on behalf of the Burnaby Local Committee. This year we increased committee participation and attendance and added a Discord server which became quite popular. There is a vibrant engagement on the Discord server, with many members highlighting problems with routes and formulating positions for recommendations to the city, leading to letters and engagement with the city.
In June, we hosted a booth at Hats Off Day where we engaged hundreds of interested people, from seniors to children from Burnaby Heights and nearby communities. We increased the profile of Hub in Burnaby and shared the ability to participate in providing feedback to the city on the Francis Union project. And the latest edition of the City of Burnaby cycling maps were received.
We undertook 3 assessment rides. The first one was for the Midtown Bikeway. Midtown is a report that has recommendations for improved wayfinding, traffic calming, and route enhancements. Our second ride was for the Francis Union project. The federal government and the city of Burnaby is undertaking an improvement project to enhance this route, and our ride produced another detailed report that allowed us to provide improvements to the city so they can fit it into their tight timing for their project.
Our most recent assessment ride was to get feedback for the Edmonds area quick build infrastructure implementations. The city of Burnaby has an active survey about these new implementations, and we submitted our answers. We also sent them to other hub members as suggestions for the survey.
Still not a
they didn't stop completely though.
Whereas this one, they're forced to stop as they're coming into like a T intersection, right?
We cultivated a working relationship with transportation staff at the city, where they actively engage us to obtain feedback on people cycling prior to starting projects. For example, city staff proactively met with our committee members as part of their Francis Union upgrade.
Lastly, we wrote a number of letters, including to support Lakefield Drive, a letter congratulating Mayor Hurley on winning the Biggest Leap Award, a letter about bike keep storage lockers, one about Douglas Road closures, and one about Winston Street, Central Valley Greenway.
This is everything I dreamed of.
Yeah, this is what you wanted.
Hey there, welcome to highlights of things the Maple Ridge Pitt Meadows Committee did last year that we found pictures for. In September, we hosted a ride throughout our area with TransLink CEO Kevin Quinn and 2 planners. We were able to visit several spots in need of improvement. Here's hoping our concerns have an impact on funding. In October, thanks to a joint effort by our committee, Fraser Health, the Red Fox Healthy Living Society, the Maple Ridge Climate Hub, and other local volunteers, a group of Indigenous youth received their own bikes and learned how to maintain them and ride safely around their community. Also in October, new city councilors were elected, including this familiar face on the Maple Ridge Council. In May, members of our committee rode with Maple Ridge Mayor Dan Rumi and 2 councilors, pointing out some difficult road crossings and places where paths could use improvement. April's Earth Day celebrations in Maple Ridge once again included our committee's raffling off of several bikes that we collected and fixed up. June saw members of our committee tabling as well as riding in the Pitt Meadows Days Parade. And thanks for watching.
Hey, my name is Jesse Leigh, and I'm a co-chair of the Richmond YVR Local Committee. This past year has generally been successful for us. Center stage is the Steveston Highway multi-use path approval, where during an 11th hour council meeting in June, 15 people came to council in support, and many more wrote correspondence to change city councilors' minds and get the project approved. We've also participated at a few events this past year, including a ride for the Garlic Festival last August, attending Hamilton Night Out last September, and tabling at Participation in the Thompson Community Center in June. We've helped with some consultations, such as Richmond's Wayfinding Initiative, and just this month we're preparing an assessment ride report for Shell Road in anticipation of the City of Richmond's plans to extend the existing multi-use path north to River Drive. We hope next year will bring further successes.
Hello everyone, this is my presentation for the Surrey White Rock Local Committee. Our committee highlights for 2022-2023. We provided 3 presentations to the City Council, 1 to the White Rock and 2 to the City of Surrey. We provided about 4 letters to the city on various projects. We attended stakeholder meetings with the City of Surrey and Surrey Langley SkyTrain. We attended the Newton Car Free event where we had a booth, and we were right beside a fun event called Slow Bicycle Race. And we also held a joint bike ride with the Rotary Club. You see that's the picture on the left there, where we went around the Surrey City Centre and into Guildford and on a loop of protected cycling. That was a great event. Had about 50 riders come out, and we want to expand that ride in the following years. We also held 4 family rides, including a playground crawl. We also gave feedback on the Surrey Transportation Plan, which included their goals for transportation improvements for 2030 and 2050, and lots of promising things with lots of protected cycling plans, and a lot of it especially go into the North Surrey area, but also around the town centers as well. For infrastructure highlights, the first and best project I think for cycling was the Quick Build project, where the city has provided protected cycling facilities on existing streets. Another project was the Fraser Highway project, where they've widened it in anticipation for the Surrey Langley SkyTrain to go in, which will run through the center of the road. They built a multi-use path on one side of Fraser Highway and just a protected cycling facility on the south side. Another project is 80th Avenue, where in the Newton area, where they've widening the road. They put in multi-use paths. There could be multi-use paths on both sides of the streets. And our project was the Nickel River Bridge and Highway 99 interchange changes. Another widening project here. We're going from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. And this project provides protected cycling across the bridge, but unfortunately not along the whole corridor. It's using a lot of legacy infrastructure, and there's still some high-speed on-ramps and off-ramps as well. And then finally, the last project to highlight was 84th Avenue, where they built a new road through Bear Creek Park. So that is our update for the Surrey White Rock Committee. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anthony Floyd, co-chair of the Vancouver UBC Local Committee.
Hi, I'm Jeff Leigh, co-chair of the Vancouver UBC Local Committee. Having co-chairs has been a great boon to our committee and helps share the workload.
Our committee has been meeting monthly online, where we've had up to 35 attendees. We just had our first hybrid meeting this past Tuesday. This year, we've increased engagement by moving our mailing list to groups.io, now at about 150 members, and by starting Twitter, or X, and Mastodon accounts. Also, we started monthly social rides to bring people back face-to-face and to explore some less popular parts of Vancouver's bike network. These rides will continue through the winter.
We participated in the development of the City of Vancouver's new 5-year active mobility plan, which calls for over 100 kilometers of new complete streets, greenways, and pedestrian improvements. We incorporated all of these into our priority gap list and map so that we can track the progress. Unfortunately, we had a couple of setbacks this year as our new council and park board commissioners pulled back from previous commitments. The Stanley Park protected bike lanes were removed after much public discussion and media interest, and council decided to defer implementation of the Broadway protected mobility lanes.
However, there are several exciting projects included in the new active mobility plan, including the Portside Greenway and the East Side Crosscut. And right now, construction is progressing on the first phase of the Granville Connector, which also includes infrastructure at both ends of the bridge.
There's a lot going on in the City of Vancouver and at UBC, and if you would like more information on our local committee, contact us at vancouver@bikehub.ca. Thank you.
The TFN Delta Local Committee has continued their advocacy on the Great Blue Heron Way, working with Elder Ruth Adams of the Tsawwassen First Nation, as well as with Trails BC, to advance the vision for a path that connects First Nations communities across the region, while challenging users of the path to consider different First Nations communities along the path with a vision of decolonization. The committee has also had recent successes in relationship building with other important local players, including Century Group, who owns and manages the Tsawwassen Town Center Mall, which will eventually be redeveloped. The committee met with Century Group staff to discuss active transportation along 56th Street, the main thoroughfare in Tsawwassen, which was received positively, with active transportation lanes planned in the future. The committee also met with mayor and council, presenting their top gaps and other initiatives to them. The committee continues to work with municipal staff as well as elected officials to push for better active transportation in Delta, particularly after the cycling budget was increased substantially for the current budget. The Langley Local Committee has had a challenging year, but nevertheless has powered through. In the past year, Tony Bissick stepped down as chair, and Geraldine Jordan briefly took the chair role for a few months before stepping down. The committee currently doesn't have a chair, but continues to meet. During this time, the committee sent out 3 advocacy letters, including one on the Glover Road overpass design and stakeholder feedback process. The committee also attended open houses and other engagements with decision makers on 40th Avenue, as well as the township budget. The committee currently continues meeting despite these challenges and engaging in advocacy opportunities in Langley, with a particular focus on end-of-trip facilities and other unique challenges that Langley faces. Major updates this year in New West include the election of a new co-chair, Heidi Hiza, after Gary Carlson stepped down from the position. In that time, the committee has started a Discord server where people have lively conversations about cycling in New West and ways to make it better. The New West Local Committee has also dedicated their efforts to awareness, understanding, and support of New West's Active Transportation Network Plan, which was completed in 2022. This partially funded plan will begin implementation in 2024. They've dedicated their time to supporting this ambitious plan, as well as advocating for improvements, working with a very bike-friendly mayor, council, and staff to advance cycling through meetings, letter writing, and other activities. Another major highlight is that the committee received a $4,875 Participation Community Challenge grant to hold a series of cycling events in partnership with the City of New West. As a part of this, they organized a series of community bike rides and other promotional activities to get people cycling in June. The concept of this event was initiated by the program coordinator of Century House, a senior center in New West, in collaboration with a local bike shop, the New West Welcome Center, city staff, as well as New West Hub local committee members. It was a culmination of over 3 months of planning, organizing, recruiting, and gathering almost 200 donated bikes, amongst which 100 were refurbished, repaired, cleaned, and given out on Community Bike Day. These bikes were targeted to newcomers, seniors, and low-income people who completed applications to justify why they should receive bikes. The event also included a concession stand, free hot dogs and water, children's arts activities, a poet laureate, as well as a bike rodeo. The committee has continued to hold community bike rides, holding 16 rides for beginner and lap cyclists over the summer from May to September, as well as a self-guided scavenger hunt by bicycle. On top of this, the committee also collaborated on a Earth Day bike ride, which was well attended. Over the past year, the North Shore Local Committee has recruited a vice chair, Paul Jansen, and has continued their work across the 3 North Shore municipalities. Over this time, the committee has focused on recruitment into liaison roles and has found success on that front, with liaisons for each North Shore municipality being filled. The committee continues to work to fill their 3 priority bikeways, with some major successes over the past year. For example, in West Vancouver, there's a new piece of infrastructure consisting of 1 block of separated bike lane eastbound on Marine Drive leading up to Taylor Way, which was constructed in October 2022. There's also new buffered bike lanes on Marine Drive between 26th and 31st Streets, which was completed in June 2023. Work is now underway to install painted bike lanes between 31st and Marine Drive and the Upper Levels Highway, including along Westmount Road, It was a bold move by West Vancouver, and City Council stood behind it, despite the tendency for West Vancouver residents to oppose cycling infrastructure. The committee has also been very active in meetings with stakeholders, including a meeting with the City of North Vancouver Mayor Buchanan, as well as holding a bike ride with Councillor Catherine Pope. The committee has also met with other city staff, including the transportation team, and engaging with the St. Andrews Active Transportation Improvements Project. The committee has sent 8 letters through approval in 2023 so far, which is among the highest of all the committees. The Tri-Cities Local Committee has had numerous successes in the past year. The committee worked together to put recommendations for a new designated cycling route through Semiquola, also known as Riverview, which was received well and was implemented by the Coquitlam First Nation as well as BC Housing, who administer the lands. Another major gap was filled with the construction of the Guildford Greenway, which consists of raised curbs and flexi bollards, much like the one seen on 3rd Street in North Vancouver. It's not perfect, but it's the first completely separated on-street cycling facility in the Tri-Cities, which is a major success. It's a huge step forward and a big win for cycling infrastructure in the Tri-Cities. Other major successes include the removal of maze gates from Coquitlam's design guidelines and the ongoing removal of ones that currently exist. This will make paths more accessible, particularly for those using adaptive bicycles, cargo bikes, as well as other mobility devices. The committee has engaged in ongoing advocacy and has sent 6 letters through approval in 2023 so far. The committee continues to meet with municipal staff and has also recently completed an accessibility assessment ride report in Belcara. If you're looking for ways to make a difference and help make cycling better in your city, join a local committee. We're always looking for new members, new voices to help out in the advocacy work. Visit bikehub.ca/LC for more information.
Hi everyone, my name is Matt Alexander. I'm Hub's treasurer. I've been with the board now for 6 years, and I've got the honor of providing the Hub's financial report. Starting with some good news. You'll see on the financials, we had another record year in terms of revenue. This is great news because it means we have funds to execute on our mission. You'll also see from the balance sheet or statement of financial position that Hub continues to be in a strong financial position, which means it has cash on hand to weather uncertainty, and means we can stay focused on delivering on our mission. Before getting into the financials, I'll recap around the process. Firstly, these were prepared by management, which includes a qualified director of operations and a bookkeeper. They were reviewed by the operations committee, which is a board-controlled committee similar to an audit committee. We had a review engagement performed by Manning Elliott, which is an independent accountant or auditor. From their review, nothing has come to their attention that these statements aren't presented fairly. Finally, they were approved by the board. If you want to look into more detail around these financials, they can be found on our website. Over to the financials. As a reminder, our fiscal year is between April 1st and March 31st. I'll pick out a couple highlights. Starting with the review engagement report. Good news here is nothing came to Manning Elliott's attention that these statements do not present fairly. The wording can be seen in the conclusion section. It's a bit awkward, but it's basically the best case results from this type of engagement. Moving forward to the statement of financial position or the balance sheet, I think the key item here is scanning towards the bottom of the page, the net assets. Net assets at the end of the year were positive $344,000. This is good news because it means our assets, which are mostly cash and accounts receivable, are greater than our liabilities or amounts that we owe. To maintain a healthy balance sheet as an organization and to meet best practices for nonprofits, we target to have a restricted cash on hand equal to 3 months of our fixed operating expenses. This allows the organization to weather uncertainty. At the end of the year, we had $858,000 of cash on hand. Of that, $385,000 was restricted cash, which got us close to the goal of 3 months of fixed operating expenses. We have plans to close the gap and achieve our goal in 2023 and 2024. Moving forward to the statements of revenues and expenses, also known as the income statement. Key items here, as mentioned before, 2023 was another record year in terms of revenue or funding. Funding grew by 44% over our previous high of 1.6 million in 2022. This also represents approximately 180% growth compared to 2021, which was just 2 years ago. One of the risks the organization has identified is managing this growth and ensuring we can handle the increased workload on the organization. Other key item here is if you scan to the bottom of the page, you'll see that we are in a deficit position, meaning our funding was below our spending for the year. The deficit was due to a couple programs where our spending exceeded our funding. In the fiscal 2024 budget, management has addressed these deficiencies and are forecasting a surplus. Further, the organization has had excess revenues or surpluses in prior year. You can see just in 2022, we had a surplus of 77,000. These surpluses have generated sufficient cash reserves, so the current deficit did not impact operations. Looking forward, our funding is expected to continue to grow into 2024. This will allow us to increase our scope and ability to execute on our mission. With that growth, we're keeping a close eye on our financial position so we can continue to make these presentations easy. That's all I got in terms of the financials, but if there are any detailed questions that people want to follow up with, feel free to email me. Last item, I'll be stepping down as a board member after this meeting. I plan to stay closely connected with the organization moving forward. As I step down, I'd like to thank my fellow board members and the management team. This has been an extremely committed and high-functioning team. It's been a pleasure working with everyone in the organization, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the organization continues to grow and working on its mission to getting more people riding. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for that update, Matt, and for your commitment to Hub's board over the past 6 years and your work as treasurer. It's been a pleasure working with you. There may be questions for Matt. I just want to check and see if there's anything that's come in through the chat. If so, we can take a couple of those now. I don't see anything there for Matt at the moment, so we're going to hand over to Nadia.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nadia Furyk. I am an outgoing board member and the elections officer this year. So I get to announce the exciting part. We do not have any bylaw changes this year, so I can present the new directors to you right away, and we will not keep you waiting any longer. Here are the new directors of the Hub Cycling Board. Alexandra Flynn, Anne Murray, Caitlin Hildelund, Esther Holubowicz, Luke Gillies, and Marin Shields Brown. Congratulations to all of our new directors. I know our incumbent board members and staff are really looking forward to working with you. If you are not elected, we want to sincerely thank you for your application and encourage you to explore working with a local committee. We had such a strong slate of candidates this year, the choices were not easy. We will be in touch to see if we can involve you in Hub's work in other ways. And lastly, and to Jeff, thank you on behalf of all of us on the board and on behalf of Hub staff and volunteers for your dedication to Hub as president of the board and a director this past year. Many thanks, Jeff, and back over to you.
Thank you, Nadia. I'd like to congratulate the new board members. We will be in touch with you very soon about onboarding and next steps. A reminder for the new board members that the first board meeting is on October 11th, second Wednesday of the month. We're going to adjourn so that anyone who needs to get offline can, but we will leave the Zoom session and chat window open for those who wish. I'm checking to see in the chat if there's any further business. Barring any further business, I'd like to move that we adjourn. Victoria has seconded that motion, and Jennifer will launch the poll. Okay, we're good. Thank you very much, everybody. We are adjourned.